Hey, Petty fans, welcome to episode 17 of the Richard Petty Motorsports podcast presented by Petty's Garage.
Presented by Petty's Garage, rocking another one of their Columbia shirts today. And today, a little different scenery right now, but we got to interview my driver. When I was a kid, he was my driver, and it's probably one you're not expecting. That's
right. We were able to get Ernie Irvan on the podcast, thanks to our good pal Jerry Baxter, who you remember from a few episodes back. And wow, what an amazing experience that was.
Yeah, it really was to sit across the table from a guy like Ernie and just kind of have him give us his story of his history and colorful history, sad but also a very triumphant history, and just a legend on the track and some cool Richard Petty stories in there too.
Right. Yeah, being Petty fans and working with the Pettys, we know a lot about that history, but a guy like Ernie is somebody we really wanted to learn more about from a different perspective, and he had some insight on his experiences with Richard, which are interesting, so I think you're really going to enjoy this. Really thankful for him. Ernie lives in Florida, so we were able to catch a very tight window that he was going to be in Concord, and made the trip down there and had a great time with him. So let's not hold off any longer. Here's Ernie.
Ernie Irvan. And I live in Ocala, Florida. And I don't know what I'm best known for except for being Swervin.
That'll work right there. Yeah. And you're not alone. You've got a guest on with you today too, right? Who's here with you?
That's Stewie. I had to give up my man. I had to give up my man card when I got him because he's a poodle, but he's a chick magnet.
Right.
All chicks love Stewie.
I can tell why. Well, welcome, Ernie. Welcome, Stewie. This would be the first time we've had a furry friend on the podcast with us as well, so we always encourage that. Have to try and get some more in the future, but thanks for taking time out of your day to join with us. We actually got you in person, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Really exciting. So you're originally from California, right?
Yep.
So starting out, you're from, is it Salinas? Is that correct?
I was actually born in Salinas. Well, I was actually born in Carmel. But got raised in Salinas, which out in the kind of out the country, but yeah, in between Salinas and Monterey.
Okay, and what was your first introduction to racing?
Well, my dad was a racer, so when I was like probably 3 years old or 4 years old, maybe something like that, we're running out around the racetrack, and acting like we were a race car or something, just what the normal kids do when their dad's got a race car driver.
So your dad was driving.
Yeah, he was a dirt driver. He ran a bunch of dirt and won some championships there at Watsonville, which is just down not too far from there.
Okay.
And he was real good.
What kind of dirt cars was he running?
Oh yeah, there's some pictures of them there. They're strange looking, but it was like older days, and they were like a real narrow body, and they were kind of wide, and it was just something they all put together. And I think it was actually one of them was I think it was, I can't remember the name of it. It was a wasn't a Carmagia, but it was something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So your dad was racing. You're around the racetrack from a very young age. It's pretty much, all you knew at the time. And when do you decide, I want to take a shot at driving these things and get involved with racing myself?
Well, my dad got me a go-kart and started in go-karts, and we were going to go to quarter midgets, but then you had to go through a 3-week school and stuff like that, and it's like, nah, we're not doing that. So we went right into go-karts and just raced go-karts till I was 16, and then started in stock cars. And Jerry Baxter, when we were going, and the shop he bought was where my first car was built at. But that Jerry wasn't there at the time. But Jack McCoy, I don't know if you know him, but he's a West Coast racer, and he actually, that shop that he had was where the first car was built. And then also Gary Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary was part of the first car I had, and also Butch Stevens. He was a parts guy. He had you went to the racetrack and had sold him race parts.
A lot of big name guys out on the West Coast then, right around there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Jerry. Jerry was nice enough to help us get this all set up, and we had him on a couple weeks ago. And
Thank you, Jerry, if you're listening.
yeah, we appreciate that. When did you and Jerry first meet, and how close did you guys get?
Well, we can't really tell all the things that me and Jerry have done together and things like that because it's not good for a family show. But I mean, Jerry was from San Diego, and I was actually up in Modesto. So we just kind of met through the racetrack stuff, and he was working with some people that we were also working at Ivan's for, and so we just kind of all got together, and then Jerry moved up to work for Ivan, and Jerry was the fabricator, and I was the one that couldn't hardly drill a straight hole. Jerry, I'll tell you that too. So.
He didn't phrase it that way.
No, he said you weren't a very good welder.
I mean, I can out-weld him all day. I can't now because of my eyesight, but I've got a welder right down the street, right down there in my shop, next to my shop where I used to have. He can out-weld Jerry. He can out-weld him with his eyes closed. And Jerry was just a mediocre welder.
Okay.
I mean, he was all right. I mean, he welded, and when you tell Jerry this, he welded about like Ivan did.
Okay.
He would close his eyes and try to not get a spark in it.
Oh man, this is going to be great when we go.
Who
back
else
to
you
the
want to
shop.
talk about?
Oh, we'll get there. So
yeah.
So Jerry Baxter, maybe not the welder extraordinaire.
Yeah.
He wanted to be. Oh.
He said I wasn't the welder extraordinaire, and I really wasn't, but I was as good as Jerry was.
Okay. So yeah, you hook up with Jerry there at Ivan Baldwin's, working together.
Yeah.
Did your paths continue along the same way, or did you guys kind of go in different directions and link up later on?
Well, I mean, when I raced at Stockton, which is where I won my championship, Jerry was actually in San Diego, and later he ended up buying Ivan's place, and just then, but we weren't together a whole lot after that.
Okay.
But me and him have been friends forever, and then when he moved on the East Coast, then he started working for me at my bush shop or truck shop or whatever you want to call it. And Jerry was, at the time, then he started to being a good fabricator. He always tells me that it's like you've drilled a hole twice and you're still too slow, too big.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to harp on Jerry a little bit.
Oh yeah, got to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I can't tell you what the whole deal is, but yeah, because this is a family show, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you said you won a championship at Stockton? Is that right? Where is that track at?
It's actually north of Modesto.
Okay.
Well, and so it's it's east of San Francisco.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of in the valley, So
A short track?
It was a short track. It was only like maybe a quarter mile.
Okay.
And Jerry can tell you that I was kind of rough on the edges, and there was a lot of people we almost had to fight our way out a few times, but I won 15 out of 23 races.
That's a pretty good record.
And sometimes because you qualify on the pole, you have to start in the back. So there was times that I could make it to the front in 3 or 4 laps.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
There might be a few people that was mad when I got done with it, but
had to do what you had to do to get up there, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, Jerry will tell you that I was a little rough around the edges, and but I mean, if you ever saw pictures of me when I was 17, 18 when I was doing that, yeah, I mean, I needed a haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, your hairdo back in the day was nice.
How do you know that?
Just internet.
Did our research, right?
Yeah.
So then, was that in late models at that time, or like the equivalent of late models?
That's what they call them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a 72 Nova.
Gotcha.
You know, we probably have a picture of it somewhere.
Those are great looking cars.
Yeah, I mean, they were, but mine was a little rough, you know, because I didn't do body work on it.
Because Jerry was welding on it, right?
No, because Jerry wasn't involved in it. So I mean, you know, right now, if Jerry was involved in it, it would be really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's forgot how to do all that stuff. Now he's crew chief, so he don't do nothing. He goes and says, "Hey, engineer, do this."
Sure, there's some truth to it. And
Yeah, there is.
What point did you say, okay, I've got to get over to North Carolina and try and go that, you know, get where everything is centralized?
Okay, I'll have to tell you a little bit of the history about it. Well, my mom and my dad, when I won my championship, they figured they were breaking up.
Mm.
Okay, so Dad came to the East Coast and left us with all the stuff, but Dad had all the money.
Okay.
So
what year was this that you won your
That
championship?
was 77.
Okay.
And so ended up I stayed with Mom, and I tried to, you know, make sure we, you know, had things to do and, you know, money to work with. And so it was kind of struggling at the time, and
It had to be tough, yeah.
yeah, and then I started driving for Jack McCoy, and he didn't go broke, but he said, I'm not spending no more money on race cars.
Right.
So I mean, and Jack was a great race car driver, wasn't a great car owner. So then we find out where my dad's at. He was working for Lake Speed, so we finally find out where he's at.
On his Cup program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Lake Speed's Cup program, whatever you want to call it, Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So ended up, me and Dad talked, and Dad said, "Man, if you ever want to do anything in racing, you got to get to the East Coast." I just packed up all my stuff, which is not very much. I had a little small Dodge pickup truck. I mean, the small Dodge pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
Loaded everything in the back, and then built a trailer. It was really, really tacky.
Drove across country with it?
Yeah, and I had a race car frame and cage all with it. So I brought it from the East Coast.
Wow.
No, from the West Coast. And then my uncle rode with me, so I wouldn't die on the way back. And so
Right.
so now the thing is we stopped at Vegas. You know, because it's like, you got to stop at Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
I was
course.
21. I was 21 years old, so I had to do
you
that.
wanted to try and add a little bit of funds to your pocket?
That's what the plan was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you know we were eating the cheese that you get from, you know, welfare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's welfare cubes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so we were eating that and crackers on the way back, because on the way there, and so we stopped at Vegas. I had about $300 to my name, and so I'm like, okay, it's probably not very smart, but when I left there, I had $600 to my name, so I did good.
Yeah.
And we got the heck out of there.
What were you playing? What'd you win?
Blackjack.
Nice.
Yeah, my man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
So you were really, I mean, we've touched on this on a few episodes. There seems to be a common theme with racers in general. Jerry was kind of like this. Some other guys have similar stories where when they decide, okay, I need to get to North Carolina or I need to go for racing, like it's drop everything, time to go now, let's make it work. And it sounds very similar to what you're saying. You know, your dad called and said, if you want to do this, you need to get out here. And you're just like, okay.
not only did you pack your stuff up and go, you built a trailer to haul some stuff on.
Yeah, I bought a trailer that was just an old pickup truck, you know, the frame. So we ended up taking that and, you know, put the truck arms on it and got it where you can make it as a tow vehicle.
Okay.
It was kind of not real nice, but you know, I mean, because I welded it, because Jerry says I go out of weld, so I know how to arc weld maybe, but so you know what, Jerry can talk all he wants. I got paid a lot of money to go welding.
Yeah.
and I'll tell you that story in a second.
Okay.
But yeah, so we packed up everything we had, and you know, I mean, we thought it was all right, and Dad he was in partners with a guy on a race car, you know, and it was like a mile down the road, that's where my mom lives. Well, the car they were storing, they were right there in a 3-car garage, and so that's where they did all the fabrication and worked on it and all that stuff. So, you know, Dad was like, okay, well, I want you to run this thing, okay, you know. And I had never run. I ran just a little bit of dirt, but not much. And this Concord Speedway was dirt.
Okay.
Well, his partner in the car said there's no way that he can drive this car. I'm out of here. You know, because he said this guy can't drive. You know, he's from California.
They didn't have any faith in you then.
Yeah. So it's like, so you know, me and Dad started doing it, and we, you know, won some races, and you know, proved that I could drive some.
Did you like driving on dirt? Was it fun?
It's dirty.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was fun, but you know, you just get. I mean, you spend all your time cleaning the car.
Yeah.
You know, so we start pavement racing, you still spend all your time cleaning the car.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So, we had a good time doing the dirt race, and then me and Mark Reno got hooked up, which is the guy that, you know, Jerry knew from the West Coast, and he actually moved. Mark Reno moved back here to work for Mark Martin.
Gotcha. I've heard his name a lot. So who was Mark Reno? Was just a guy in the sport that
he was actually my crew chief when I won my last race.
Okay.
You know, he worked for Robert Yates some.
Okay.
He used to work for James Finch. He worked for James Finch for 6, 7 years, 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, Mark was been around a lot. He worked for Petty's.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he worked for Petty's. I think he was there when Richard got his 200th win.
Oh, wow.
I think.
So like mid 80s, 84 time frame. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So
see, I knew we were going to find some Petty connections as we started down the line. Yeah.
I've spun a Petty out. I think. I mean, I don't know if I have or not. Yeah. So, Mark had just been a part of my career a lot, and then we started racing together. You know, he owned the car, and I helped work on it, and you know, we were racing, and that was when Concord was dirt, and we won a bunch of races on the dirt, and then they paved it.
Okay.
So we're like, well, this is easy, you know, and these guys didn't know much about pavement racing, so we dominated the first year because nobody even knew nothing, and then finally one guy showed up, which is Jack Sprague.
Yeah.
And he was competition, and you know, he was driving for Robert Hampke. You know, Robert's a chassis builder and stuff, and so we had a lot of disagreements. A lot, you know. Robert didn't like his car getting tore up when I was on the other end of it.
Right.
So
understandable, I guess.
And Jack didn't like it either. You know, so I mean, it was all right. I mean, as long as I wasn't on the short end of it, you know, and we could build our own cars, and Robert could build his own cars. So that wasn't a good sign, because that means we didn't mind a crash. You know, but you know, Mark is a heck of a fabricator too, and he's the one that owned my first stock car, actually Cup car, that was sponsored by Dell and our Chevrolet.
Right.
He's the one that owned it, and you know, he built it, and you know, all that stuff. And that car, and if I remember right, that car came from the West Coast, and it had been burnt, you know, and the body was all burnt off of it and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So they stripped it all and they sandblasted it, and that was a car that we built and ran our first race with.
So if it was it a Winston West car before that, or was it just?
I think it may have been a Winston West car. I mean, you know, if you ever get Mark on it, I mean, he knows. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember a lot about it. But you know, obviously, Mark knows every part of it, and I was just with Mark's just half hour ago.
Oh, really?
Know? Yeah, he's just down the road. You know, so we had a good time at Concord Speedway, and then we started going to some other tracks, and we could win there, and then we thought we were trying to race the big boys, so we went to the World 100 at Eldora, and we had a guy that had built us an all aluminum motor. So we thought we were like, we could go up there and run with them.
Yeah.
Well, there was about 220 cars.
Wow.
So Grassy Smith, which used to be Freddie Smith's dad, which Freddie Smith's a great racer from right here at Kings Mountain. So Grassy told me, he said, okay, when you come here to run, he said, I'm just telling you that when they start practice, you're going to get 1 lap the green, 1 lap the white, 1 lap the checkered. That's all the practice you're getting.
At Eldora?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh man, we're going to be in trouble.
And so this is a track that you haven't been to before.
Oh no, we haven't been.
And you're back on dirt, right?
Yeah.
For that. So
Yeah.
you get basically what, 2 laps to practice?
Yeah, well, kind of 2 laps. I mean, it's like when you come out of the pits in turn 1, you're getting the green going into
Right. Okay. Yeah.
in the middle of the front straightaway. So it's like wow. So we ended up running a heat race and we transferred to the feature. I ended up having to do one of them shotgun moves, trying to, I went from the top all the way to the bottom and cut the track and gained 3 positions. That's what got us in the race.
Okay.
So then we were like, man, what are we doing in this race? So we said, well, we're in it. We might as well do all right. So I think we ended up finishing like 12th.
Okay.
Wasn't great.
But when there's 220 cars to start with and you end up 12th.
Well, if we made the races was the first goal. And we did. And it was a lot of fun. And we figured out that we need to go to racetracks that, we know a little bit more about.
Right.
Yeah. And so Mark, I raced with him for quite a while. And then he built the Cup car. And we did that. Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet car. And then what really got me the break was the Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet car, and then DK Ulrich wanted me to run 2 or 3 races for him. So I ran 2 or 3 races for him, and then ran Charlotte, and we had to paint the car different because Dale wanted his signature on the side, and he wanted it silver and black.
Understandably, yeah.
And we said okay, well, now the whole story of this thing is the sponsorship. Dale said, okay, I'm not going to give you any money. I'm going to give you credibility.
Okay.
When you show up at the racetrack, you're going to have credibility. So don't mess it up.
Wow.
Oh, man.
So it's like, wow. I mean, Dale Earnhardt's telling us that, and me and Mark are, just kicking around. It's like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but yeah, we're going to do it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So then the next race that I ran at Charlotte, he wanted the car painted silver and black. The car before was black and white, and it was like short track stuff was, and so now he wanted signature and all that stuff, and so we said, okay, so how much you gonna pay us for that? Nothing.
Still no money.
Still no money.
Wow.
So it was a pretty good story because, he said. Before the race, he said, and I'm starting, I don't know, 30th, 32nd or something. But we made the race. And so Dale comes up, he says, okay, you got to first finish before you can win. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you get on this racetrack, you do all you can, don't crash. If I drive by and you're in the infield crashed, I may stop and what? And I'm like, yeah, right. It's coming from Dale Earnhardt, Well, and so sure enough, about 50 laps into the race, I think I'm running about 20th or something. 50 laps into the race, they said, caution. I said, oh, okay. And so I go by, Dale's in the infield crashed.
Oh, so the script is flipped.
I was thinking about stopping, like he was going to do in me, but I figured it was Dale Earnhardt. He could do whatever he wanted. So, it all went good, and we ended up 8th.
Yeah. So you made a little bit of a name for yourself right there in your second start, getting the top 10.
Well, no, it was not second, but it was about the 3rd or 4th because I'd run DK's car a couple times.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And there's another connection. Remember, we did
Throwback
we did a
last
throwback to the one race that Richard drove DK's car when he had some issues and needed to find a ride last minute.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Richard hit the wall, had a concussion. They didn't call it a concussion, but he doesn't remember driving the car.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't really want to remember it if it's DK's car. I mean, DK was a great guy, but he just had no financing.
Yeah.
But he can make a lot of things happen. Had no idea. I mean, it's like it's expensive, but
Yeah.
he was able to. I mean, again,
He just won the race.
we ended up Kroger as a sponsor, ran a full Rookie of the Year season, and run second, which I was glad of that because most of the time the Rookie of the Year ends up out. They don't run anymore. So I was second, and so I continued on my career.
is that like a Rookie of the Year curse type of thing?
That's what I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like the Madden curse. You don't want to be on the cover of Madden. That's not.
Yeah.
That's funny. So did Dale Earnhardt think? Like, did he see something in you that made him want to put his name on your car and try and help get you some clout in those first few races?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I think I knew Dale had known a little bit about me as far as racing because I was racing all in this area. And Dale paid attention. I mean, I don't think he ever seen me race. But he was real good friends with Mark Reno. And so Kenny Schrader comes by our shop. Okay, me and Mark, it's down Pittsco Road. Me and Mark are working on the car, and Schrader comes walking in. He says, "Hey, what are you guys doing with this thing?" Ernie's going to drive it at Richmond. He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, who's going to sponsor it?" We said, "We don't really have one. I mean, you know anybody?" He said, "I've got somebody in mind." He said, "I'm going to go down to Darlington. I think when I come back, I'm going to have you a deal."
Wow.
And we're like, okay. Sure
So
enough.
did Kenny Schrader just show up unannounced? Like,
No, he was always. We were doing a lot of
Okay.
work for him and stuff.
yeah, gotcha.
And so he showed up, and
Because when you
Yeah.
said Kenny Schrader stopped by, I was like, well, that's quite the chance encounter that he just. But that makes a lot
Yeah,
more
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like jumped. I mean, I was on one section, and now I'm kind of back over that deal. So
Gotcha.
So then Schrader comes back, and he said, "Okay, I rode with Earnhardt on the way down to Darlington, rode with him on the way back, got you a deal."
Wow.
Just like that.
And we're like, "Okay, how much money?" And he said, "Well, that's some of the problem." He said,
I'm sure it wasn't funny at the time, but it's just it's just so.
"No, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah." So I mean, Schrader said he's not going to give me no money. So that's how. Again, I kind of cut part of that, and then next thing I know, we're talking about Schrader too. So, yeah, that's how it all happened, and I'm pretty confident that I had that story fairly close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Chris, you want to take a quick break here?
Yeah,
And,
we'll
get a sponsor read out the way and
keep
come
it
back for
rolling.
a few minutes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Welcome to Petty's Garage. Every one of our strut bars and coil covers are handmade right here in my hometown, Level Cross, North Carolina. Now, you probably know my favorite color, but we still make these things in every color you can imagine. You've got the power to make your car go and show exactly how you want. Visit Petty's-Garage.com to check out all the parts, engines, and tunings we've got to offer.
We've talked about Ken Schrader helping you put together the deal with Dale, even though it wasn't necessarily for a cash deal, but
A deal.
a deal.
It doesn't
nonetheless.
matter. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
And you know what? Smartest thing we ever did.
Mm-hmm.
We thought it was the dumbest thing we were going to do. But
But he was right. It kind of worked out that way, right?
when we come rolling into Richmond, down in our Chevrolet on the side of the car, and we're on an open trailer.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So we come rolling into Richmond, down our Chevrolet on the side. Everybody's like, down our Chevrolet? Huh. This guy must be something. I mean, open trailer, down our Chevrolet on the side of the car, and there's got to be something here.
Mm-hmm.
So credibility.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Dale was. I mean, I don't know if you ever met Dale. But he was smart. He knew racing. He knew the promotions of it. I mean, he knew all of it. You know, and you know, business wise, he was great at that. Souvenirs, he did great. I mean, everything he did. I mean, everything I understand. I mean, Dale was on top of his game.
Yeah.
Gotcha. You still had to go out there and race the wheels off of it, though.
Yeah, well, at Richmond, we made the race, but we only lasted like 30 laps. It blew up. So that was my debut.
Wow.
So fast forward a few years, then you end up and you're in the one of my favorite cars of all time, which is the number 4 Kodak car.
Yep.
And I always liked that because I think when I was a little kid, I was a big Bobby Hamilton fan. He spent a little bit of time in that car too.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Yeah. And so how did you get over to Morgan-McClure?
Well, what happened was DK's deal ended. I started driving for Junie Dunleavy, which Junie's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
We drove for him for about 4 races, and the sponsor never gave him any money. So Junie finally comes to me and says, hey, I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to race because the sponsor never come through, but you're more than welcome to try to find something. And so about that time, Tony Glover calls me from Morgan-McClure, and he says, well, I think we're going to get rid of Phil Parsons. We've seen you run. We think you can be good. You've never drove a car like ours. We'll go test it in Atlanta. And it's like, oh yeah, this is my chance.
Yeah.
You know, so Tony's just, I mean, he's just a great guy, and he said, okay, well, we were down there and it started raining. Well, it rained, it quit, rained, and the track was off and on dry and off and on wet. There was wet spots about it, and so, I mean, I'm like, man, I got to practice this car.
Yeah.
You know, I want to get this ride. So Tony said it was dry. It was almost dry enough, and almost. So Tony says, okay, go out, just shake this car down. We know the car is good, but we just got to make sure you shake it down and get used to it. I said, oh, okay, no problem. So we go out there, and you know, it's like, okay, well, it seems to be all right, you know. So Tony comes on the radio, says, okay, give me some, you know, about 3/4 speeds, you know, and see what we got. Well, I didn't know what 3/4 speed was, so I started going as fast as I could, and now this is Tony's story. I was a couple tenths quicker than the track record. I don't think that, but it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 2 tenths faster than Tony's track record. So ended up there like, okay, you're going to be driving this car. Well, first race we went in Atlanta. I think I ended up 3rd or 5th or something like that. So, you know, DK's car, you know, I mean, Mark's car, which was, you know, we didn't have no money. We just, you know, did all that.
Yeah.
And then ended up DK's car. You know, there's nothing. Then Junie's car, they didn't have got sponsor never come through. Get in the 4 car. It's like,
That's a big jump, right?
A big jump. But, you know, I ran good at Atlanta, and then I think we went to 4, 5, 6 races later, went to Bristol and I won. So it was like, that was a lot easier than I thought.
It's like you work so long, you know, because like you look at the Winston Select here, and you know, a lot, you just know the name, and to hear the story of like how you actually got to put on that uniform and the grind that it is, like it is, like motor racing is not easy at all.
You got to be willing to get by on hardly nothing,
sacrifice,
take a chance, drive across country, you know, pack up your stuff, go all in,
stop in Vegas to double your money.
Yeah.
Most of the time that don't work.
No, it does not for me.
Yeah. No, it's just wild to think about that path and what you had to go through to get there. But and then you won the Daytona 500 in that car too, right?
Yeah, 91.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So You know, I don't know if you know Danny Lasowski. He's one of my buddies. He told me, he says, "You finished under caution. You didn't really win." But that's Danny. Yeah.
Hey, you cross the line first, you win.
he is 4 times Knoxville champion, he'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah.
I said, "How many times you win the 500? None. I've never raced in it." He said, "How many times you win Knoxville? None." So
in the early 90s, talking about we had, you familiar with Chris Hussey?
I've heard that name.
He's Dale Inman's son-in-law, and he was he worked with Mark Martin, Ward Burton, Adam Petty.
Yep.
Anyways, when we mentioned that we wanted to have you on the show, the first thing that he said was that your dad was the first one to develop the modern pit box, the war wagon, as he called it.
Yeah.
And he sent us this picture. I don't know if you want to pass it over to him, Chris, if you see it. But Chris sent us that picture that he had on hand. I thought that was pretty neat. You remember this?
Yep. Yep.
So was that the first one, or was there more to it?
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to know the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Harry Hyde used to work for Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, when Hendricks first started, Harry Hyde was the man. Well, Harry and them had built a pit box. And so Dad's looking at it and said, "Man, this thing is cool," you know. And so he asked Harry, he says, "Hey, is it all right if I kind of copy this, try to measure and all that stuff?" That's how it all first started.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and it was, you know, not this building, but it was in our garage where he was building, we did the race car.
So did he become kind of a go-to guy for other teams to build boxes for them?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people started buying the boxes. You know, nowadays they're like huge. They got all kinds of stuff. But I mean, it's like, you know, now these have got to be short track boxes, you know, because, I mean, it used to be Cup stuff, you know, but that was when Cup stuff was a lot smaller. So, you know, they just kept building them bigger. And so Dad's never really went to like the really big ones. I mean, his was a little bit bigger than the picture, but I mean, they were nice.
Mm-hmm. So he was a pretty talented guy too, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, Dad was a, you know, a decent welder. You know, Dad was the brains behind it. He figured out, you know, it's like, okay, well, sometimes you're better off copying than to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Take what somebody else has already done and make it better.
And especially if you're not intruding on them,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah, and so, you know, Harry Hyde was like, yeah, it's fine, you know. So it all worked out good.
Yeah.
Dad made a business out of bead rollers and pit boxes, and that's kind of how it all started here.
That's pretty neat.
And Kevin, the one that's my brother-in-law, he's right up there. He's still working there. He's, you know, now he owns it, but they actually, Kevin was working there when the first pit box and the first bead roller was done.
Wow. That's pretty neat to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking as you know, you're in the 4-car and then you end up in the 28. I think we're all pretty familiar with how that goes. Look at your wins and the tracks that they came at. You know, we talked Daytona, Talladega, Bristol, Watkins Glen, Sonoma, right? That's quite at Michigan later on. Like that's quite the range of different types of racetracks that you were able to be successful on. Was there anything that you did or anything about you that made you more versatile than other guys? Because some guys are great on short tracks, but you don't really see their names pop up other places or super speedways or something like that. But you seem to be able to win at all those different types of tracks.
About lapping the field at the road course.
I can't tell you some of the stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, that's secret now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Why was I that good? Yeah. If I could sell that, I mean, I'd make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I mean, it was just, I never knew how to road race. And, you know, when Tony got me in the road course car, he said, "You've never drove one of my cars. So I'm telling you, you're going to be fine." Well, we started on the outside pole, ended up getting black flag, went all the way to the back, and went all the way back to the front and won the race.
Wow.
That was my first road course race in the 4-car.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it was a lot easier than I thought. I mean, it's like, so then we won Watkins Glen too. So, I mean, it just seemed to be a lot easier than when you were, I mean, I was sending good stuff, and it was just good, easy for me.
So you didn't go to any driving schools or anything? Because a lot of drivers nowadays, they'll go to a bunch of driving schools just to race on a road course.
Yeah, I mean, a road course is just like a short track. It's just, I mean, you got different corners. Sometimes you turn the other way. I mean, it's like sometimes you're right, sometimes you're left. You don't have to do it any different than you have to race a short track, except for you have to turn right, sometimes left. But it's the same thing. The car is the same as far as, it's like, okay, well, you get loose to the right, get loose to the left. So, I mean, I didn't try to complicate it.
I got you.
I just tried to, it's like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I'm just going to do what comes natural. And that's how I did it. Now, that doesn't mean that it was the best way, but that's when it was.
That's a great perspective way to put it.
Yeah, I've never heard it said like that before.
Yeah. So your nickname, you got one of the best sounding nicknames, I think, in racing, of course. Yeah, we got to talk about it. Got to talk about Swervin Irvan, right?
You don't have to, but yeah.
Well, so this was...
Well, Richard's nickname used to be Squirrel because he used to all over the track. So it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Somehow the king came in later on and he was able to leave Squirrel behind. But
well, you know what? Swervin kind of stayed with me the most of the time, but it kind of got where it wasn't as much.
Mm-hmm. But I think it sounds great. I mean, I think it's one of the best sounding nicknames. But that was placed upon you by competitors, right? Or
just, I mean, basically one big competitor.
Who was that?
Sterling Marlin.
Okay.
I think that's who come up with it.
Gotcha.
So, because he started driving the 4-car after I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, then he come up with a nickname for me. And Glover and Sterling. I mean, Sterling's from Tennessee, so he can't really hardly talk. He can't hardly talk, So, but I mean, great guy, and I mean, again, he's just got an accent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really strong Tennessee accent. That's not to make fun of anybody, but I mean, it's like he had a different accent. I'm from California. I don't really have a whole lot of accent. I've been in North Carolina 30 years or so. Don't have the southern stuff. So, So I mean, it's all right. I mean, Sterling was a great guy. I mean, we had a lot of fun, with Sterling.
Mm-hmm. But then you had that kind of I would call it more of a press conference in the drivers' meeting, where you had to stand up and
you had to bring this up. and the whole thing is, I didn't have to.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
I did it voluntarily, and it was because of something that two people that are pretty talented in racing told me. And I know you guys know these names. One of them is Richard Petty. One of them is Dale Earnhardt. So they both sat me down and said, I'm telling you, boy, you need to straighten up or you're going to be out. So, I mean, it's like, you just gotta quit getting in trouble, wrecks, spin outs, anything. You gotta quit, and so, I mean, I went up and asked Dick Beatty, which was the sports marketing guy, or no, he was in charge of NASCAR at the time, and I said, hey, Dick, can I get up at the drivers' meeting and say something? He goes, what are you going to say? Well, I just think I need to apologize to all these people and let them know that I mean well, I want to do good, and I know that it's important to be, liked in the garage area. And he goes, no way, I've never heard anybody do that. And so he said, well, I'll do some checking. And one of the things that Richard said, and you know Richard, he's the king.
Yeah.
And so he said, if you were going to a truck, any truck, I could go to any truck and get a bologna and cheese sandwich. Any truck.
Mm-hmm.
How many trucks could you go to and get a bologna and cheese sandwich? Yeah. So
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and Richard's like to the point.
The King's got a way of shortening things up,
Yeah.
keeping it,
Yeah.
getting the point across.
Yeah, I mean, again, I respected it. It's, I come with Richard Petty.
Yeah. Right.
So, I got up in the driver's meeting and said, hey, I feel like I need to apologize to everybody. Want to say that I want to do better. I want to be liked in the garage area, and I'm going to be, more patient.
Yeah.
With my driving.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said I'd appreciate it. I think I said I would appreciate it if you give me a chance. Well, about everybody looked like, real happy and this and that. Rusty Wallace is back there.
He was sitting there just like this and
You saw
shaking his
that,
foot.
huh?
I saw
Yeah,
it.
we were talking about
'Cause
that
the
on the way
camera
here.
panned over and
Yeah.
everybody's clapping and Rusty's sitting there
Rusty's
shaking
like-
his foot.
Yeah, because Rusty's like, yeah, right.
He wasn't
So
buying it.
He told me later, he said, yeah, let's just see how that happens. Well, I don't know if I changed my way of driving or nothing. I didn't seem to get in as much crap.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously I was still pretty competitive. And as competitive I was before, so I didn't really change nothing. But maybe it was a coincidence that things started getting better. Maybe I was doing it in my mind and doing it on the racetrack without trying to do it on purpose.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's kind of how it went.
I think it takes a lot of courage to get up in front of a whole
Yeah.
room like that and just, essentially swallow pride, if that's what you want to call it. But to do that, that's not many people would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think.
That's like this. That's like
It shows the character,
Yeah. So that's why we wanted to touch on that, and the fact that Richard had a hand in sparking it really doesn't surprise me because I can hear him saying things like that.
Did you know Richard did it?
No, I did not.
I had no
Yeah.
idea. No.
Yeah.
It's new to
So,
us.
sorry for bringing that up, but we wanted to.
I like it because I don't know if Richard remembers it. I don't know.
We'll have to ask him and play this clip for him and see if he knows. He'll either say, "Oh yeah, I remember that," or he's like, "Oh, I guess I did." But
it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I don't know if we've ever seen anybody take charge of a situation like that and take the word of a Richard Petty and a Dale Earnhardt and say, okay, I need to do this.
And I feel like that's something like I never knew you personally, and it's an honor of mine to finally meet you. But to do that, right? So that's very public. Everybody knows that you got up and apologized. And then a lot of people don't remember that after your first win, the 28, you had a Davey Allison T-shirt under your race suit, and you wore that shirt for what was it, 6 races before?
Yeah.
Just to honor him like that, and in Victory Lane, you sounded emotional about it, and that's. I think that people hear Swervin Irvan and they think it's a negative, but it's like, yes, you were a competitive race car driver, but you also have really good character as well.
Yeah.
And I just don't think a lot of people may know that, but anyway.
Yeah, we wanted to bring that to light.
I appreciate all that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And also we talked a little bit before we started recording, but we fast forward, and I think most people are familiar with your accident in Michigan and what happened after that. But
did I have an accident in Michigan? I don't remember.
I feel like you won at Michigan.
Well, that too.
I thought I won it. My last win was in Michigan.
But we talked with Jerry on his episode about, Chris, your personal connection with your eye surgeries and Ernie having procedures done at the same place. You want to remind the folks at home how that all went down, and you brought the picture today. That's
Spark notes this, and since I'll let Bradley throw this up there. This is a much younger Ernie.
Hey! Come on now.
Oh, man.
So Ernie, when I was a kid, for anybody that's made it this far and is still listening, when I was a kid, I had 4 eye surgeries and I had to wear an eye patch, and I did not want to wear my eye patch. And I don't know if my aunt, who was a nurse, got a hold of somebody. I don't know what happened, but I got this picture in the mail, and it says, "To Christopher, keep wearing that eye patch," signed by Ernie Irvan. And when I got that in the mail, I don't remember much from being a kid that young, but I put my eye patch on, and I don't think I took it off until the doctor told me, like, it's okay to take it off. And for drivers that may be listening, you know, you might not, and Richard is known for doing autographs all the time, but for drivers that are listening, that little thing right there can mean the world to somebody. And that picture's got scratches on it because my mom told me not to sleep with the picture, and I did, and the glass broke and all that. But anywho, you know, thank you for that. But anywho,
thank you. I mean,
yeah. Well, we can move on from there, but you know,
the fact that you're able to find the picture, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and you still have it, and we can bring it in and show Ernie that. I just couldn't let this episode go by without touching on it. So
and the fact that, you know, the injuries you sustained are just, you know, most people don't come back from it. And then there's a video or movie I found on YouTube, and the fact that when you came back, I mean, it's almost like you didn't miss a beat. I mean, I took my knee off with a chainsaw last week. I burnt the palm of my hand, and I know I've already done things different, you know, from then to now in a week span of how I'm going to chainsaw different so I don't take my knee off again. And it's like, you know, they even said in the movie I was watching, you know, you would do your 10 laps and then you would just send it into 1 and 2, just that little bit of extra bite to see what you could get out of the car. And, you know, that's what led to your injury. And then how when you came back you still did it. You know, just trying to get that last little bit out. I mean, it's I mean,
sometimes I wasn't very smart, you know. I mean, you know, I'm proud of everything I had done. You know, some things I'm probably not very happy about, but it's life. I mean, you got to be able to you just never know what's tomorrow's going to bring.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when I signed that picture and for you, I didn't know what that was going to bring, you know. So again, you know, I mean, there was a lot of things that my recovery did for a lot of people, because a lot of people, you know, I mean, was down and out, and they had problems, and they didn't think they were ever going to come back. Well, the doctor told me that, and I can speak very well now that I couldn't before. The doctor told me, he said, you know, my wife was sitting there, and the doctor said, he said, well, you know, he said, what do you want to do in this recovery? You know, what are your goals? So I want to get back to racing, which I'm talking clear now, but I said, I want to get back to racing. And that doctor, you know, he kind of looked, and he's like, well, let me explain something to you. If you can ever drive your little girl to school, that's going to be a successful recovery. And my wife got that doctor out of the room, read him the right act, said, if you tell him that, he's going to give up. Because racing's his whole life, and if you tell him to give up, basically you're telling him to give up, then he's going to give up. But right now, he expects to get better. He said, and she even said, she goes, yeah, we know that it's probably slim to none to even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got to have hope.
Right.
And so I had hope, and things kept going better. I mean, I started really working out, trying to do better for myself. I couldn't make anything heal better, any faster. You know, it was brain injury, basal skull fracture. So, you know, I couldn't really do nothing with that. And but Mark Martin told me, he says, you know, your physical fitness is going to help you get ready to race. Says, you know, you can't control all the other stuff. You can control your physical fitness. And so I started working out and, you know, trying to get my physical fitness better. You know, which, I mean, I had trouble walking upstairs when I first started. When I first was in the recovery, well, actually in the rehab, that was about 30 days after my wreck, and I went to Charlotte for the rehab, and I could barely walk up 2 steps, and so
Wow.
I didn't even know how to put the left foot in front of the right foot. It was just, it was just so complicated. I didn't understand it, and nowadays it's like it's kind of second nature.
Right.
But you just don't know how bad it could be and how far you can come back.
Yeah.
And so, I just kind of kept faith, kept hope, and kept doing everything I could do to make things better for myself.
That's pretty amazing. That's awesome. Wow. I don't know how we're going to top that, but
Yeah.
a couple quick things, and then we'll let you get out of here. I know we've taken up a ton of your time, but this has been amazing. First off, so we talked about the Kodak car and obviously the 28 car, and you drove the Skittles 36 car, so you had some prime 90s paint schemes. And I'm a paint scheme guy. It's part of my job is to design the ones we have now. Did you have a favorite? Was there one that you thought, man, that looked good?
Well, my son's car is a 28 car, and it's kind of got the same numbers on it as far as, what the 28 car was when I drove it.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's kind of my favorite. I keep wanting to do a Kodak one. Change the number 4. It don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in short track racing. We can do whatever. I keep wanting to do that, but it'd take a whole wrap and, stuff like that. So, one of these days we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll just change up, things. But we've won the last 2 races, so we don't want to change it up right now.
We were going to ask how that's going.
Yeah. So your son's racing, right? And how's that going? How involved are you there? And
Well, I'm involved as much as he'll let me be involved.
okay.
Because he is 22 or 23 years old, and I can't tell him nothing. He's a typical 22, 23-year-old. It's I'm involved in all I can, but basically I'm the truck driver if I need to be. I am the go get tires, pay for them, go get drinks, go get ice, go get all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm gonna be here looking at the car. Well, so yeah. It was just. Again, you all try to do everything you can to make it. And my son Jared, he's turned into a really, really good race car driver. Opportunities are probably never going to happen. But I really think that he's a better race car driver, smarter race car driver than I ever was.
Wow.
But you have to have the opportunity. You have to have a Dale Earnhardt back you, say, get your credibility. Then you have to have somebody like Mark Reno that was the car owner to take a chance and make all that work. And right now, in the Cup deal, there's no way that people are going to say, hey, we're going to give that guy a chance. Obviously it brings up a lot of attention because he's Ernie Irvan's son, but that hadn't led to a whole lot. So it's just part of life, and hopefully something will ever happen. We don't know, but if he keeps winning,
Yeah.
So if we do that, then things are going to keep coming, but who knows what it's going to be.
Gotcha. Well, we obviously wish him the best of luck, and we're going to keep up with that. And thanks again for your time today. This has been
thank you.
So great, and we really enjoyed it, and hope you have as well. And hopefully we'll get to catch up with you again sometime soon.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you.
All
And
right,
what about Stewie?
Thank you too, Stewie.
Talk,
Yeah.
Stewie. Talk, Stewie.
All right. Well, there you have it. The Ernie Irvan episode 17 of the Richard Petty Motorsports podcast presented by Petty's Garage. Told you it was a good one. Hope you guys really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard it in my voice, but I was pretty jacked up.
And, man, Ernie was just just a blast. I mean, really funny guy. Had no problem just telling stories in great detail, and I learned a lot. It was really fun.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yep.
If you want to watch us. If you just want to listen to us, you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcast. Just search the Richard Petty Motorsports Podcast. That's right. We make it really simple, I think.
I think it was. I mean, we could have come up with some crazy name that was hard to remember. It's like, no, it's the Richard Petty Motorsports Podcast.
Yep. Straight and to the point. So, like I said, we've seen the views and the listenership starting to go up. We've seen all your comments saying that you enjoy it and that you want to see certain guests. So keep those coming, because we've got a list. We're trying to get everybody scheduled, down the road here, but we've got a list of people we want to have on. And if there's somebody that we're not thinking of, fan comments are a big help there. Share it with your friends. Word of mouth is always big. But thanks as always for listening. Thanks to Petty's Garage for presenting another episode. And hey, that's where we're sitting right now. We're actually, talk about that real quick. We're recording this at a different time than we did the Ernie interview, but this would be the first one that we've done sitting actually inside the garage area, one of the buildings here in Level Cross.
Not the conference room. Yeah, and we were going to do the intro outro at Ernie's place, but they were closing up shop. It was getting a little late, and we did not want to keep those guys later than they had already been there all day. So we were like, hey, we're just going to wrap up and do it later.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention too. So we recorded that episode at Irvan-Smith, and hold on, I got the business card here. Because I wanted to make sure they were very, we were last minute.
Oh, yeah.
And they were super hospitable, showed us around, very friendly. So
brought out the old photo albums and talked about, and we actually got to see Ernie's hair, like in very nice quality. His hair, his hair from the early days.
Yeah. So thanks again to Ervan-Smith Inc. Racing and Metal Fabrication and Equipment down there in Concord for lending us the space and being so kind to us, showing us around. So
thank you so much.
With that, I think it's time to close it out. See you next time.
See ya.